Incremental readings. So basically, as a completionist user of SuperMemo now, I will react to my old self milestones. 10 years, longer than that. And I have been using SuperMemo for about a month. Finally, you can see here, 30 days. And I put quite a few hours in, actually. I was using a sleep chart. Good to know. I think I used it for about 6 months. Then I stopped. I have more than 1,000 items, not all of them memorized, but because I imported from XML. Look at that. Oh wow, from Anki. Oh, not even 1,000. Okay, so later on I will import more, but not in the first month. So if I go to the sleep chart, yeah, here you go. You can see the time. Oh my god, I had so much time. Look at that. 6 hours, 4 hours. 3 hours is the day that I use it, or 2 hours that you consider, hey, I almost didn't use it today. Wow. My sleeping pattern was free. I didn't use an alarm clock, so that was genuine. Usually after midnight, and then I napped. The nap was more irregular. 4 hours, 4 hours, 3 hours, 3 hours, wow. 5 hours, and I wish I had 4 hours a day to do it. Basically because I have multiple jobs, and I have almost no time. And if it's time that I use SuperMemo, is for the sake of the channel or tutoring, not my own usage. Last day in August. I hope this changes eventually, so I can just work a full-time job, and that's about it, and I spend more time on my own projects. I did 6 hours of incremental reading, so I did a pretty... Okay, then something, since I see it's not the first day of the collection, there are like 5 days missing, don't take this as an example, please. You don't need to do this. If you start SuperMemo, don't start clocking so much time. You may also have seen that the first weekend of the video we already reacted to, I take 2 days off, here you have 1 day off, but later there's nothing off. So what you see here 0 is because it's my future. And actually September 11th, it's the national day of Catalonia, where I live. Imagine this. So you don't need to put that much effort. Another thing that I noticed is that you may see until the August 28th that the sessions were very long, right? One single session, boom, without a break, because I was recording my screen. And later you can see that no, now I don't have any constriction, any restriction. Therefore, I use the session when I want to, because I'm not recording it. That's why it's more scattered all over the place. More or less, I could say all day long, until late at night. Here now, I don't remember if I was working, freelancing a little on the side, or it was just absolute freedom. I will need to take a look at the dates, but it won't change much. My message is the same. By the way, the S here is missing. SuperMemo will help you. Lol. I realize that now. Strong commitment. And you can see the difference here is that first I use a very long sessions because I was recording my screen. And later on here is when I'm using just whenever I want to. So you can see I'm using sessions across the day. Okay, so had a restriction or nothing meaningful then because of the work. Nice. So about the stats is... Oh yeah, it's August. Makes sense. August usually it's the... Oh yeah, even in academia it's off. Yeah. How are my stats? So for now I have always total time. So I have been using doing repetitions for less than 2 hours. This is, yeah, because this is just the recall time, first. Second, is not everything tracked. Because if you already show the answer, but you spend time modifying the text, adding an image or a template, this is time that is not counted. Unless you do it before you show the answer. And then it's capped at 30 seconds anyways. So if you spend more time, which I don't think that happens usually, it won't be the case. It won't be tracked. Then, the message is that compare this. I just tell you that I have used SuperMemo 3 hours, 4 hours, or up to 6 hours every single day. Yet, after a month, I only spend less than 2 hours of recall time. Compare this, not to another user, to myself using Anki. Imagine that I do report, hey, I have been using Anki for a month. I started with Japanese kanji in my daily usage with Anki back in 2009. Then, can you guess how many hours I will have used as a recall time doing repetitions? A lot more. Absurdly more. So, in my genuine usage, to simplify, let's say 3 hours a day. There are days that I do more, but there are some days that I miss, right? So let's simplify 3 hours a day. That means 90 hours. In 90 hours, only 1 3/4, let's round up to 2 hours, means 1 every 45 hours is from recall time. This is a slightly more than 2%. Without doing the math, let's put 2.5%. It's less than 3%. Awesome. This is extremely little. Now in Anki, my usage of Anki will be doing the repetitions and creating the elements, assuming the flashcards, assuming I create them. Because if I do a shared collection, this is skipped. Basically, it will be the other way around. From the 90 hours, all of them, but 1 hour and 45 minutes will have spent editing some typos or some things that I want to cherry pick, or that they use a word that I'm not familiar with, so I replace it because it's content I didn't created myself. That was true. What I did with the kanji, it was already done, but I modified because I used a different language, not English. And then I created my own mnemonics. So it won't be the same example as this. It will be perhaps half, 50-50. But if I would have done, that was not my point. It was because I didn't search it in my native language. If I will just went away with English, which is what I will do today, because my proficiency in English is much better, I will just use the English at the shared deck, meaning that most, not 1.5, 2.5, 97.5% of the time of my Anki usage would have been recall time. That was what I was leading to. Most of what I do is recall. If I created my own usage, let's put 50-50. Depending how demanding the flashcards are to do. If in that case I use specs, mnemonic systems from scratch, so I spent some little time even before I started with Anki. But that is an outlier case. Imagine this, going back to SuperMemo. I have used it for about 90 hours. I can actually track this file and tell you precisely, at least in precision of minutes, how many minutes until that day I used SuperMemo. And oh my god, only 2.5% or less than that it is spent to actual recall time. That's because first, at the beginning, this is true. Because you don't have items. Unless you import items through XML or other methods, and you memorize them, so you have a flow, daily flow with items already, you will start with only topics. Do extracts, so you will need some iteration until you get the first elements that are items, and then you will have items, but it won't take much time because they already get 3 weeks, 1 week interval. So you still need some time to more or less, when you cannot finish the standing. Eventually, you will get to that point, and then it's more or less depends on your sorting criteria, blah blah blah. But you will get a sweet spot, let's say. Even though I'm going to tell you, it will be very minor. Why? Because incremental reading is a learning method. It's a superset of space repetition. In Anki, you don't track this because the reading and the sense making and all of this is done elsewhere before you do create the flashcards. Or you don't do this, you bypass the learning and you just do shared text. So there's no learning process at all. Or you do it in hopes that the flashcards will reflect what you did. But without going in that aspect, that is also not the point of this video now, reflects how little time you spend memorizing. 90 hours and one. And I'm pretty sure that at the beginning I wanted to zero off the outstanding date, the outstanding count. So is that I even, it's what I did. I could do more because I had a longer outstanding queue. Most of the time, that was not the thing. That was not true. So imagine, what a big deal. Okay, let's continue. It's ridiculous. If I was using Anki, that's almost a day. And that's why it's so taxing. Because I remember I used Anki for hours a day, and 2 or 3 was very taxing. So even if I got used to it because of the prolonged exposure for so many years, it was still very draining to do all of this, because it's a lot of recall time. This won't happen in SuperMemo, in incremental reading, and if it happens, it's because perhaps you put rather intensity on items, because you want to go through the backlog or whatever, but because of the interleaving, you will read, do some repetitions, read, and so on. Even if at the end of the day, you spend 2 hours of recall time anyways, it doesn't feel as draining as just in Anki. It makes a difference that now, it's been so long that in Anki, I don't do volume, because I only maintain what I have, right? So I barely add anything new. So I can even wait some days that I don't do anything, and then review flashcards that become due that last week, let's say, or 4 days, more or less like this, and it's still a matter of minutes. If I will go back to this, now I will not be able to tolerate it, because now I know another method that works a lot better, that is incremental reading. Yeah, usually I'm doing 1 hour on something a day in Anki. So, and that's a month. That's because in Anki usually almost all I do is reviewing. And look at the speed, that's crazy high. Because it was at the beginning, the collection, you can afford higher speeds for items per year per minute. Believe me, this is very high. So the longer your collection, so the most, the older your collection, the slower you will go until you plateau, more or less. That's what you can do every day. You won't go faster, even though the number, it will decrease a little, because you are still averaging against other years. So it will become closer to what you do this year. Let's say if this year is 360, every year that I do 360, the number will become closer to 360, if this makes sense. So even if the speed was crazy high, I only spend 1 hour and 44 minutes. That makes a huge difference, because I think here If I did something about language was anecdotal from Anki, I look English, only 12 items, so really anecdotal. I spend my time with incremental learning. Later, I will start with language, and you will realize that this becomes a lot higher, the total time. Because how you create the items is a lot easier, how you review them is a lot quicker, so you can have more volume with the same time. If I spend about 2 hours, 1 hour and 44 minutes, doing language, I can do a lot more repetitions than if I do incremental reading. That's why, if you have a collection of only incremental reading, mixed, which is rare, or just language learning, a lot of metrics will have a lot of difference, even though it will be less than Anki. But not that drastic because you still do language learning. Yes, you will have fewer repetitions because of the algorithm, and what you neglect because of priorities will be what is less important, so no big deal. There will still be difference, but it won't be as dramatic. But still, you will be able to interleave the reading process with repetitions, even within the scope of language. And you can mix languages as well, but don't do the same manner that in Anki, not in a deck level per se. So it's, for me, to summarize, because I don't want to go into details and show you Anki and do the comparison now, it's a deal breaker. I don't want to do this in Anki. No chance. Because I know how much I'm missing now. There's something a lot much better than I can do. With incremental reading, not because it's SuperMemo. If there was another app fully implementing incremental reading, I could use that other app. So it's not that it's because it's SuperMemo. It's because of the method of incremental reading. This guy, in 1 month, even if was seeing these results, these numbers, I couldn't still figure that out. It is so on your face. It's so obvious, and still I didn't see it. Because I only did incremental reading. Most of the time, even myself, I'm on record. It was on my face, but until I didn't do language learning, or until I didn't mix incremental reading with language learning, I didn't get most of the scope. That, oh wow, the power this has. And by the way, last point. Look at my retention rate. About 95, almost 95, which is the target. Oh my god. I add little cards, and there are some days that I add no card at all, or even whole weeks, I add no card, no single card. In Anki, I mean here. And that's because out of that many hours, I only spend a fraction of this time doing repetitions, because I am starting fresh, a fresh collection. So I have been reading and chunking down the articles. So I guess in the future this will be changing, as well as the speed, which is still huge. I mentioned the speed at least, just to make the opposite point, which I did I think 2 years later. That, hey, let me finish off what I have at SuperMemo in my SuperMemo collection. Which then I said, hey, I have read all the documentation, because I literally imported everything that is worth to import. And I processed all of that through SuperMemo. Then what I did is, let's say it's Pareto principle, it's 80% done, but it's taking a lot because of incrementalism. The intervals are crazy high, some of them. Let me do subsets. And then let me disregard when it's outstanding. I will do then a repetition ahead of time. I did this over and over every single day. And even though I needed like 2 months, it was not something that you do overnight anyways. So I did pam, pam, pam. It will be the opposite. Then I do a lot more items for a fraction of time. But it's because even though it's incremental reading, because of over subsetting, remember I have this on the course, I was over subsetting to finish that off once and for all. Then you artificially create more items, you increase the speed, but at the same time, you're not going to keep up with the items you do because you create too many. So it will be the opposite. And yeah, you can still call it incremental reading. Yes. But if you do incremental reading how it's meant to be used, not over subsetting, what I said is true. And this will be closer to Anki, like I have some documents that I Ankify because of limitations that I only have flashcards. I cannot import the material in my collection. So there's no hard reason to do it. But at least I have done it, and I did it on purpose for a kind of A/B testing. What will happen if I overuse the subset? And I do this branch, and also was because I wanted to start the course. And hey, at least I know now that I have read all of the documentation there is. So I know I don't have any holes, or the holes I have, which I do, are the same holes that are in the documentation. That hey, this is not mentioned, or this is just mentioned, or there's just a phrase, not even a sentence. Doesn't tell me much how it works. So I matched the holes of the documentation. That's why sometimes I have spent a lot of time, believe me, hours, sometimes many hours, just for an A/B test, for a A/B test. But hey, it's not a speculation. Now I can tell you what happens after over subsetting a branch that I had, I know, hundreds of articles imported. What else? The average for getting index is close to the one I said, which is... Yeah, it's 7%. How is this? It's because it's 10%, the default, but some of the items I set a lower one. Again, because I wanted to change it, because I wanted to learn from it. Most of my noob self did actually spend time with this. Something meaningful I did and was useful is when I was, in the times that I was mixing language learning with incremental reading in the same collection. And especially when I did Chinese, or should I say Mandarin. But later I split that again, so it won't make any difference. At least it's good that I experimented already since the first month. How many people are going to tweak this that early in the game, or ever? Into 7%. And the retention rate, now it's almost 95%. Look, the outstanding. So I was finishing the items because I remember the first month, I don't know until how long, I was able to finish outstanding because of my sorting criteria. I got a lot of items for a topic, and even later I did some subsets that let me finish outstanding for items first. You can tell, look at this. About 2,000 outstanding topics already. In this, I already need to rely on priorities. 2,000 is way too much without priorities already. And it's something there was no need to, by the way. Imagine. So if I didn't do this, I would have done even fewer repetitions, and I would have spent even less time. Look, not even 1,400 repetitions. In my Anki days, this could be done within a day. Because actually my average, even now, or even after a few years that I stopped using Anki how I use it, more or less 5 years, so now the average has been decreasing because of that. I still average more than 1,000 flashcards per day. Even if in the last, 1,000 days, I average 15. I will need to check that, but let's say something about this. Because I shared this on Twitter a while ago. So imagine, everything I did within a month is what I will do in Anki in a day. And if it was not cramming for an exam or something, it will be two or maximum 3 days. Before doing the session was above 95%. That's because if you pay attention here, the forgetted index for today, it's pretty bad. 31%. Yeah, good observation. I don't pay much attention to this, even when I have to do RIS, because this changes a lot, even like the R metric. Yeah, you have a very not liar, very high or very low. But if it's just today, doesn't tell me much. I need more context. That is always like this, it's always low until it's very high. Yeah, perhaps you did a subset of all items, so it makes sense. Because you neglected those items, and if you do them very next to each other, you will have a worse performance. But if you see 5 every single day, let's say, makes little sense. Or you did something, whatever you did, that is one example. That's why what is in parentheses, good to know, but usually, when it's the same day, I don't care. It's when I see the plot and I can see in the past, and when you see then a pattern, good to know. But knowing the precise accumulated today doesn't tell me much. And almost a third. I lapsed almost a third of my repeated, or I lapsed almost a third of my outstanding items. Yeah, no, I said it right. You could tell my English proficiency was not the same. Oh my god. Which it's a very bad performance. If I go to the this is what I meant. That you have the what happened those days, and then you try to diagnose the reason. Settings here, cork down. So here's one issue. Okay, though that was the weekend I had off, and the other 2 days. So I only missed 4 days in the first month. And look, the time I invested, before in the other view in the calendar was not that far, but now I can go and see every single day. But look, one day I did like 40 something, about an hour, an hour and something. That's not what I do now because I cannot afford it. But it's just to let you know that that's the time I have put on since the beginning. In this collection, by the way, I already had 10 hours on the clock with SuperMemo 15. Imagine this, 78 days, the average would be like 200 minutes, I think, or 3 hours, yeah. So you spend a lot of time, and what I did is not much, to be honest. So yeah, I have imported a lot of things, but look, I have incremental learning as a concept. In this stage, my concept use was anecdotal. Keyboard shortcuts that I did incrementally, English, and learning. So I don't have psychology, nothing like that. So I read very little. That's why if you do I want to emphasize this once more. If you do the course, you will go a lot faster than I did. Perhaps not as natural time, because I put a lot of effort, but as accumulated time. So when you accumulate 90 hours, perhaps you don't have a month. It will be 2 months or 2 months and a half, depending on your availability. You will know a lot more of what I know on 90 hours on the clock. That's what I mean. So even though, if then we continue the milestones of 3 months, 6 months, perhaps you won't. Let's see what happens. adventure that you will know more eventually. On the 6 or 4 months, you will know more than I do on that milestone, even if you put less time. Because most of what I did was self-discovery. So because of the course I did, you could go a lot faster. Even though for the mastery, you still need a lot of hundreds of hours, especially with the soft skills. Is that I have been using my laptop and on my desktop, so I have been using the backups, and that's a backup. Look at the name. And I don't know why this day doesn't have the time. It just says 4 minutes. Oh, so it's not a day off. So my mistake, I only had 3 days off. The first weekend, which I dedicated a video, my thoughts about a weekend off, and another day, and that's it. If I go here, sleep chart, the 7th, it's more than 3 hours. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, do you see? August 23rd, 0 minutes, and the first weekend off that it's out of bounds. I will need to scroll here. Wow. Yeah, I know, because it's a backup. I think it was because I moved the collection. I copied the collection, but I didn't copy this file, which is not in the collection. It's in the binary folder, something like that. I did one of those Noob mistakes. Now what I do, I copy everything. Since I don't have my files in the default place in the C drive, I move the entire thing, even the executable file. Not now with SuperMemo 19 anymore because of the backseat trigger, but with the 18 especially, I was moving everything. So I also saved what is saved in the executable file. Like the position of the windows and stuff like this. Yeah. So again, one of the limitations, especially if you used, either you use multiple collections, no, sorry, multiple, especially if you have used multiple windows with Git and whatever, and especially if you only sync the collection, not everything. Then you have this mismatch. Yeah, I didn't copy over this file, but I did with all of the collection. That's why now we have a mismatch. And it could lead to be wrong assumptions. And you have now on record, I did the wrong assumption already, because I generally thought I took the day off there. Even though it's my own collection, since it's been like about 6 years, that's from 2020, it's 2006, I will forget those details. And I remember the first weekend off because I dedicated a video. If I will not dedicate a video with this title, it's very likely I will have forgotten this fact as well. By the way, it's getting dark because also today it's also raining, so there's less sunlight than ever. So I will finish it here before I have issues with the chroma key. I realized that I have speaking for more than half an hour, and I have only seen 3 minutes and 45 seconds. So I have talked for 90%. So I only played the video for 10% of the shooting time. Oh my god. This reaction series is going to take longer than I thought. My intention was to release it as one whole video, but brother, I have all of this and a second page. Oh my god. Okay, so we'll leave it here for now. Just to reiterate that 1,000 views, but it's very sad that there's only one comment. And from the beginning. In 5 years that this has been accumulating views, I got no comment. these things at all, personally. It's like, how? It's hard to believe this. Well, so that is for now, and I will keep reacting in the future. See you incrementally. Incremental routines, yet another day, June 21st. So let's continue reacting, in this case, to the 1 month milestone. Saved in a different file. So, I don't know why it's not registering here at the time. So the forgetting, all over the place. This is an example of an outlier that it's 0% at 9 days, perhaps because it's just one single repetition. Keep in mind there are only 700 and there are different plots, so that is meaningless. That's why at the beginning, yeah, that you see there's a tendency to go, so the higher the time, the more days, the lower the retention, well, the recall, so in percentage. Makes sense. But it's because it's a huge outlier. And also there are two here that are at the top. Most likely because there are just one or very few items. And usually from the beginning, like what is an element or how you call this in SuperMemo, stuff like this, that is rather easy. That's why at the beginning the stats are not that meaningful. Time-wise and data point wise, meaning that for whatever reason, if you do hundreds of repetitions every single day, you may have thousands, but this is still very green because you have only spent 1 month. So the max interval you may have is just 11 days or something like that. Not that meaningful. This one. Whoops. This is better. The UF. Not this one. This step is better because the size of the circle is hitting the data points. So here I know that most of my items on that time, in 2020, were 1 day or 2 days. Look at the size then. And keep in mind there's a minimum size. So even if it's just one, it will be like this. Because it will be too small that you will not be able to see it. So I think, let's remember this perception, that when it's just one or very few, it doesn't scale, it's not up to scale, because it resizes to a minimum. And this could be in the hundreds already. This one, if I have 700, I'm pretty sure that's at the very least half minimum, or really close. Especially the items that I didn't do, those are just items, right? Yeah, if it's repetitions. Yeah, I'm not sure if I finish outstanding queue every single day, assuming this. Most of those is because it's the creation. I get 1 or 2 days interval. And because I still remember what I added from Anki, sometimes I did from the pending queue, which I will get genuine intervals up to 4 days, depending on the priority, or I set memorize in bulk. And sometimes I put a fixed day, which was 1 day, so that was biasing this result. Whoops. Used, outstanding. I move way so quick. Oh my god. 1 second. Used, outstanding. Okay. Outstanding everything. If it was items, I could know it some days I missed. Total elements. How my collection was growing. That doesn't tell me that I memorized. Oh yeah, here you go, yeah. From just 1 day, look at this, September 3rd to 4th. From not even 10,000 elements, I go to 12,000. That's because I imported from Anki, that is about 1,000, or I did massive splits. So it's an article I already had. It's just a split into 30, 50, 100, and I do this several times. You could create several thousand elements, like in 10 minutes. without adding anything new in your collection. It's just a split.
Yeah, as you can see, I have been importing so many stuff.
Here you go. But regular importing. Oh my god, I don't have time for nothing.
Importing so many stuff.
Memorized. Okay, this is possible from 8,000 to 11. That is it's like 3,000. It's way too much. I'm pretty sure in that day I will have imported the thing from Anki. And then you see the speed goes slower. Constant, it keeps growing, but not at the huge rate. Again, I'm way too quick.
Importing so many stuff.
Forgetting index. Yeah, look at this. That day was 31, as I said before. So in the recording I said it was especially low. But look at this. Perhaps I was recovering from a backlog. And that day is especially low. And this 25 flat is I think the default because that's the start of the collection. So the forgetting index was the collection default. So basically, I needed to create a flashcard. This flashcard will become outstanding, and then do the repetition on that flashcard. So you need a few days. That's why this 25 is actually not real. There was just no data to plot.
Efficiency.
Efficiency. The overload. Overload, you can see I hit 100 and 0. That's because that will be the weekend off, I'm guessing, and the day that I didn't use SuperMemo. Gotcha. So you can see it's not, it's very, there's not much pattern here. Also depends what I do. If someday I spend a lot of time doing incremental reading, but through SuperMemo content. What do I mean by that? That yes, I did my repetitions, but the content was about SuperMemo itself. And then, you have templates. Let me try templates. So as I was reading, I was trying to implement what I was reading. So that is why sometimes I spend a lot of time using SuperMemo, but I didn't do much. And sometimes I did more repetitions on the content without implementing anything or trying to for the first time. So I manage more volume. That will explain the inconsistency. And also the degree of difficulty, as always.
What's the forgetting index?
Forgetting index, not getting index. That's a type on the captions.
Yeah, that's from today, which it's not even in the 70%.
No, wrong interpretation. That's not from today. From today, it's 31.5% the forgetting index. First, that is not even the forgetting index, it's the recall. The recall rate is not the opposite of the forgetting index, it's the retention rate. It doesn't follow the same formula. So you can tell that a 1 month in and reading the documentation, I was doing mistakes still, like any noob was doing. So I'm at a stage I am today just because of sheer repetition and high volumes of reading about SuperMemo and A/B testing, getting the errors, experimenting with the errors, and learning from those errors. There's no magic solution for that.
70% stability.
Oh my god, it's way too quick.
70%.
At least you can also tell I was also a noob shooting the videos because I didn't realize that as an audience it's impossible to see that. Even I do it so quick that just for timing the stop it's rather challenging. Oh my god, I think I don't do this anymore. Then that's not the grade. It's a different plot than I thought. Serialization retrievability is way too soon to be meaningful. I don't see also this graph. Oh my god, it's only one case. It's just this plot? Absolutely useless.
Is that reality?
That's the one I wanted. Okay. That is the expected, not the measured, expected forgetting index versus grade. So here you can tell I had a rather flat line, not at the beginning, at the worst forgetting index. But look at the size of the circle. 5 and 20. Those take over, like most of the stuff. Look at this other circles, the sizes. Yeah, those three on the 3.0, so the default grade, they're slightly larger than the ones at the top because I pressed 3 spacebar more often, just because of that. And if it goes higher to higher because I press 4 a few more times. Not enough, that's I think the maximum, and this one is the second. It's 3.5, meaning it has been 50-50, 3 and 4. To simplify, of course I will have put 2 and 5, and it will be the average, but to simplify. And here you can tell it was super high, but how many data points I have? Not many. And here it doesn't tell me how many there are. Okay. But still, you see a tendency that the higher the expected forgetting index, so that to the right side, it goes lower, meaning the grade is lower. Not much. It has been flattened because I overused the default grade, kind of since the beginning. So I still used all of the grade, not the 0. I never used the 0, but from 1 to 5. But most of the time I use the 3. Basically, I use the others just to signal in the history some convention. Hey, when I fail with 2 or 1. That, oh, yeah, now that I see the answer, makes sense, I remember, that will be 2. 1 is, poof, not even that. Or I don't even recall doing the flashcard at all. That's it. And for the successful, default to 3. And 4 or 5, I have to do something. Okay, it's easier than usual, but I want to signal this to my future self, that if I ever check the history, when I glitch it, or lapse it, it's for a reason. That it's significantly easier, that it doesn't even, I'm not even sure if this requires a flashcard, at least now, of how easy it is to remember. I will put a 5. But I only do it when I want to signal this, if it's a flashcard I already lapsed before, or something like that. I don't use it consistently, in every single case, because it's not worth. Most of the time, if I don't glitch those cards, ever, and I know that in the algorithm, that doesn't have effect. That's why I don't spend much time. So, long story short, instead of feeding this for the algorithm, that, oh, that's a 4, that's a 5, or that's a 1, that's a 2, or whatever, that it won't be as flat here, I don't do it because I know it doesn't have any effect, or it's absolutely minimal, that it will only change the third or fourth decimal of the calculations that can be neglected. I do it for signaling my future self when I check the repetition history. Nothing else than that. That's why graphs. Let me check which backup I have here. 1 second. Because now, once again, I have split my collections, not in the same manner as Incrementalism and language, rather close, but not limited to not all of the language. Basically, is all of the private stuff, and what cannot be shown in YouTube. It's in another collection because I will do live events, so I'm not able to censor or edit out when this pops. Just to protect my own privacy, the privacy of third parties that I may have from my job, personal discussions, stuff like this. Okay, I was doing this while it was. Now, test backup is the entire thing. Okay, but still even better. I was here. Oh my god. Oh my god. Grade. Look, it's even more flat, should I say, because now no one gets to 3.5. The very low expected forgetting indexes are also flattened now, are not higher. And the size of the plots, you can see they have increased. But even all of the ones in the middle, every single one is larger. Look at this, how tiny they were. Because now I have more repetitions. Even though if you check the yellow line, it goes to, let's say, 2.8, more or less, to 2.45 to guesstimate this visually. Look, 2.5, oh my god. Yeah, about 2.5. So I think I have lost 0.05. And here is about the same, 2.8, 2.9, something like that. I think it's very, very similar. I will need to, because it's included by the plot now. Okay. The numbers at least is 0 minus 0.01 and the B is 1.091. I don't, oh wow, and the deviation is very low, 0.35. Okay, 0.53, okay. Has decreased, but not as I expected. The A is the same, and the B is almost the same. 1.084, 91, has increased just a little. Those are correlation, how reduce affect retention. Okay. I'm not an expert. I didn't invest much time on this, to be honest, those values, so I still not know how meaningful it is. At least what I got is interpreting visually the graph. It's flatter. This tells you, and this also tells you something I realized. Let me go to SuperMemo. This is an experiment from Hugo, a SuperMemo user, that created a DS that basically, with your repetition history file, you get how many times you graded 3, 4, or 5, and what you did before. So basically the goal is different. You have all of the code here. That's super cool because you don't have to install anything. Oh, I don't need to know how to code. You don't need to. You just run all, you just put your file. What? In sample data. So you just add your file here that you will export from SuperMemo, each one single file. You put it here and you run it, and that's it. And you will get at the very bottom something like this. So the numbers will be different based on your collection. But basically, for this video, so I'm going to dedicate a video just on that. But here, my point is that when I shared this is, oh my god, most of my repetitions come from grade number 3, the default. Here you go, that's Discord. This is when I share it. Do you see 39,703 are just grade 3, only 2,000 are grade 5, the easiest, and 3,000 and about 500 just grade 4. This is my incremental reading collection, so I'm not including the language here. But you can tell that I have a very biased decision towards this because I get it as default. That explains why this is so flat. So there's the relative position is the same. So the 8 is always higher than the 7 and the 9. It has been compressed, the difference. But it's the same thing as before. Yeah, memory lapses. Of course, it's been just 1 month. So it's very hard to lapse this. I have to create the flashcard. I need to wait until the day that the flashcard becomes outstanding. I need to do it right, at least once. Then, the next time it becomes outstanding, I need to fail it. Because if I fail it first, or this becomes outstanding at the very first time, and I lapse it first. But I think, now I'm not sure if it counts in the graph. So basically, I need to import something, then do an extract, then wait until this becomes outstanding, then do the closation. Wait for the closation, the item to become outstanding, and assuming it's the very first repetition that I lapse it to the first repetition, and this will be counted. Then, what happens that most of my elements are at 0. That's why now it's very hard to tell. So I will need to hover to see the value, or I will need to cut the graph. Let's say up to 500 or something to have something more meaningful. Yeah, the 3D stats. There's no way. I went super quick, but there's no way are meaningful either, and so on.
So my thoughts are actually good. I know
my thoughts are actually good. What is this English? I think I meant that my thoughts are actually positive. I know the
basics now, and I get the flow. So I get the big picture, the semantic.
That's the most important thing. So even in this video, I already realized that I was confusing recall with retention rate and many details in the space repetition nomenclature, stats, and how it works. At least the flow, the incremental loop of extracting, prioritizing, consolidation, setting done, all of this, I got it under control. And then the auto flow that I am mixing what I'm reading. I'm not just going linearly in one source. The most important thing are the semantic connections and the big picture. This could be attributed to the fact that I spent, I think at that time, 11 years already with Anki. So this helped me a lot. So I didn't struggle that much in the knowledge formulation, how to do the flashcards. I struggled a little with incrementalism at the beginning until I didn't get incrementalism. Because in Anki, I had to do it at once. So I had to break this habit. It was a habit of a decade. That was why it was hard to break this. But since I hadn't had much workload on the knowledge formulation, which is a big deal, I had more mental energy to focus on those things. That's why, I do see the big picture, the connections. I read this, I read that, or now I'm realizing I'm reading the same source but different chunks, so non-linearly, and it makes sense. Obviously, it's the easiest because I don't have that many things. So I have semantic dementia, embodied cognition, other, grandiosity, intelligence, because I have only used 1 month the SuperMemo. Now I have a lot more things, a lot more variation. So I could do, no kidding, almost 5,000 consecutive repetitions without ever sharing the same source. Because I use the registry, the source registry, it's about 5,000. Then I have some that I don't, I just do copy paste. I didn't generate any source. So it doesn't have a member in the registry. So I know that at least I have about 5,000. So imagine doing 5,000 repetitions and not sharing the same source ever. Only for incremental reading.
Connections that I was very hard to do in Anki because you have to do this actually outside of Anki. I am so far enjoying SuperMemo. And one of the issues that I
it's quite I don't know the keyword in English. That what they say, it doesn't coincide with what they show. Oh yeah, it was very funny. And I say it's super serious. So this lack of enthusiasm, I think it's because I was still camera shy, or I don't know, or I was hyper focusing on English because it was very taxing for me still back then, translating what I want to say in English. I was translating first, not generally speaking my mind in English. That then this is lost. This enthusiasm or happiness or so on, this is lost because I'm hyper focused, so I'm working a lot, and you know what I mean. It was 1 month in, so yes, I did the recaps. I did about 40 hours of footage speaking out loud. So I improved a little, of course, and get used to speaking out loud, looking at nothing, at the camera or at the screen, and that's about it. So I don't may have the feeling, the awkwardness of doing this, but still I don't have this naturality that I may have now. That is closer to if I speak to a human live, or to a human through the screen.
have now is that I have imported so many things, so many articles. That I have just one folder with.
Exactly what happened here. I have so many children here in the same level of hierarchy. I neglected concepts. And I do remember this because one of the upcoming videos, here you go, in 3 months, so I will need two more months to mess up with this, that I have been underusing concepts. Big time. Whoop. So I still have more time to still import more material until I realize that, what is this? This is closer to what I was doing before. Yes, I have the rig material within the app, but I cannot, it's a mess, right?
So many stuff. So I know that the knowledge tree is just optional, as Wozniak says, but I would like a more hierarchy done like this.
Hierarchical.
I don't like this.
Oh my god, that's terrible. Yeah, this is because I was a noob, and this is importing with a new node, which I don't suggest. The use cases are extremely narrow, so to simplify for a fluency, never. Absolutely never.
The priority is the knowledge in my head, not in my collection.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, that will become very cumbersome to look to search for. And one other thing that I don't do, it's setting as an article as done.
Okay, before going to the done thing, this is why the children limit is for, which it defaults to 100, I think, and you can put it up to 500, which most of my collection, I always have 500. But basically, the lower the the better, not necessarily. That was because of, back in the day, that was enforced, this limit was enforced because of performance issues. Now, with today's hardware, you could have thousands if you wanted to, but it doesn't scale well. So I will suggest, for instance, when I regroup folders, one of the features you can do, that's where I'll create sub-folders and all of this. I usually put 25 or 50. So more or less that it fits in your screen, or you will need to scroll a little. So it depends on the screen resolution and so on. And that's about it. But not that absurd level of I have. For me it's too much. I prefer more nested. But again, it's optional. Totally optional. But good to know that in 1 month I was already struggling with this. So I was already above my threshold. And then what I'm about to say, which is again something I will mention here in the 3 months milestone, is that I didn't learn how to apply done. I was just dismissing it until I didn't see okay, I have been dismissing for a while, and yeah, now I verified that my worry, it was actually not unfounded basically. That yeah, you want to get rid of what you import and you have processed. What may happen is that some of the sources are actually gone. Like one personal web blog, that the author not deleted that precise article, which may happen, that deleted the entire website. That's why sometimes it will be nice to have a backup like I do with books and the ebooks or PDFs, that even if I import them in SuperMemo, I still get a copy outside. It will be nice to have this feature in SuperMemo. Because what is more niche and personal is more likely to be lost in the future.
See, what I do is I dismiss it. Okay, and what else?
But yeah, but here I dismiss them because I do perform a split, something I realized that I was over-splitting. And increment fertility, elevator paradox is not a split because I haven't done the first repetition yet. So I imported this, and because of its priority or for whatever reason, I still didn't do the first repetition. And you can know, here's a good example, this color means it has been splitted, not extracted. It's a very slight difference of shade of blue. This is an example of what I mentioned in the full guide to SuperMemo with Foul, that he is like lost going in the menu and so on. That happened to me back in the day. I was not familiar enough. And for whatever reason if this may happen for a mental lapses, I will just edit that out anyways.
Oh, there.
Now, what I want to show?
Yeah, I have so many texts already, lexicon, images, templates. Yeah, about my Anki stuff, I still have to do the coding for everything. I have carried some tests. So you can see those topics are generated from the XML. I haven't done anything, absolutely anything manual. This is all automated. So I generated different.
It's all automated, but are from flashcards that I already have. And some of them were in the decade interval already. So again, it was just to prove that could import stuff from Anki and doing custom fonts like this one, that you have the stroke order, stuff like this. But later on I deleted all of that anyways. Because I kept that in Anki. There was no reason to move this in SuperMemo, especially when everything is on a decade interval.
From one node being a topic here, and same for Hangul. And not only that, is that I apply different, as you can see, I'm applying different.
This is an example that I wanted to apply styling only on the key aspect of the question, not the entire thing.
Templates, because when you are importing from a XML file, you can only apply one template for all of them, and I don't want that.
Yeah, it's one limitation. That's why I did some workarounds. In this case, it's easy because the structure of the question is always the same. So you search phonetic reading, and apply the template. And sometimes when it's any question are open QAs, I do put some strings that then I search that the string. Then from the results that they have in the element window, I do apply in bulk the template, and then I do find and replace, and I replace that string to nothing, to an empty string. So I actually remove it. And I do the same for every single string. Basically one string for every template I wanted to apply. And basically the string is to make sure that it's unique. So it's sharp, T, something that is almost impossible to appear in real text.
So what I do actually is...
It's manual, yeah, but at least you only have to do it once, so it's not that big of a deal. You still save a lot more time than doing this manually.
I apply one template, and then I reapply templates based on the a given criteria. So I do this in bulk, so it's really easy. I go search, and I go to some tag I just did for myself, and that's it.
Yeah, here you go one example. Different syntax than I do now, but the same, just to guarantee it's unique.
And the other thing that I want to comment is that outside of the software, SuperMemo and the wiki and so on, all the official stuff is the community. The community, it's not huge, I know.
Yeah, this has changed. Has changed quite dramatically. But when I joined, I could say that I joined on the golden era of the SuperMemo community, on its peak. And from then, slowly downhill. At some time was a really downhill, like very steep, and then it maintains. It's nowhere where it is now. So just to more or less do one mock example, so you understand. So if that will be the graph, like this, then I'm assuming it was slowly, let's simplify, slowly like this, it reached a peak. I was not there. Let's say that I joined where you have the different color. And then and boom, something like this. So here is like the 80s, the 90s, early 2000s. There's no need to go that far. But basically it was slowly growing. Not the quantity necessarily, but at least the quality, the engagement. That we're discussing a lot of interesting things, exchanging flows, being in a voice call in Discord, something, a richer exchange. Because I joined after having tried SuperMemo 15, but before I tried SuperMemo 18. So I still increased, it reached a peak that every single day could be discussions. I joined some discussions happening that were not planned. There were some events planned and so on, and then a little fewer because key people that were very engaged just disappeared because they moved on. So they no longer were SuperMemo users, or for whatever reasons. Some people were still SuperMemo users, but because they reached a point that they don't want, I don't know, for whatever reason, they didn't want to be present in the community, and that had a huge toll. That then I tried to mitigate, and I did a lot of events. Hey, let's do this event, which day it's best to guarantee some attendance, but it was dying, slowly dying. And when I stopped doing this, boom, downhill, absolutely downhill. And then there's people who just join because they cannot get the key, or they have a quick question that they don't find online, and they join the community just to ask this question. They get a an answer, satisfying or not answer, and that's about it. You are not going to see that person again. They just wanted that answer. People who join by curiosity, that they don't even use SuperMemo, and they don't even interact. So they join, stay for a while, and quit with no interaction whatsoever. Maximum will be lurkering. And people who just want to use SuperMemo for cramming, which goes against its philosophy. Most, I'm simplifying, but most of those people were like that. That's why I did a video I did this video, how SuperMemo community changed since I joined 3 years ago. What it was that hey, I miss everyone, that now I run the yearly event of the anniversary. And people are not there. The key people, which I enjoyed, that were here in this spot. No one was there. No one. So some from before that were not that engaged, that were more like incremental in their engagement, or people who new people who joined. And when I did an event here, the 4th and 5th year anniversary, sorry, not the so the 4th and 5th time of the anniversary event. Where is everyone? So the people identified as not friends necessarily, but buddies, SuperMemo buddies, and in the community, no one is there. Literally, no one. Everyone that was present in the event was someone who joined after me in the community. Perhaps some exceptions, but again, they were there, but it's just that they can be 1 month or 2 months that they are not present at all in the community. I have been present almost virtually every single day. That's more or less to visualize what I meant. So going back at 1 month, I was very enthusiastic, and this kind of shaped my experience because hey, it's a big deal. There's a steep learning curve. It is niche, meaning that if you go online or in YouTube or whatever, there's not much content. When I started, there were not much content because most of the videos from SuperMemo Wiki were uploaded in parallel to my uploads. So when I started with my channel, I don't know if it was pure coincidence, they were more engaged. They did more videos for a while. Then they spaced out more, like one every few months, and then they become dead. That after, I think, it's been 4 years. So after 2 years-ish, they didn't continue uploading, unlike I did. So at least, well, no, when I was not a newbie, but later, there was more content. But in 1 month, there's some video here, how to do the PDF, how to do this, videos from Piotr Wozniak, and other than that, yes, you have some blog, and old blogs, like some year old, but they were evergreen, because SuperMemo didn't change that much, that you can still benefit from. But other than that, there's nothing else. So when you engage with people who are current users of the same niche software, oh wow, now I'm experiencing the same with a core recorder. It's the typing at the speed of thought. I'm still waiting to get this. It needs 2 months to get delivered. But basically it's to type this in a different mindset. It's a different paradigm than just pressing a key, right? To simplify, I will create videos about this when I have my hands on it. No pun intended. Literally, my hands on it. But it's the same that, oh, now I can go to the community. There's a community, there's only 6,000, but I was able to ask quick questions that are very hard to solve. Because, oh yeah, could I use this standing? Can I do this while walking in a treadmill desk? Or the position, or if I'm left-handed, is it symmetrical? Those key questions that will allow me to use it or not, to even begin with, because I know that the learning curve is massive. Hey, there are only 6,000 in the community, but they are able to solve those issues before I buy it. Same with SuperMemo. Is, oh wow, it was very welcoming that this did a plus that the software or the company didn't provide. It was the community. So it did experience actually better. And I think now, tell me if that's the truth, with my channel and course, which is extremely comprehensive and in many levels, just for noobs, for newbies, noobs that for non-users, noobs, day one noobs, or just like me, 1 month. For fluent, so every single level, I have everything covered. With all of the pacing, so it's not that, oh, it's too hard at the beginning for professionals. No, that's not the case. So I hope with my videos, this will be even better. But yeah, that was a big plus in the community. And I think I emphasize this in the next milestones as well. There's a lot fewer people than in Anki, but I want to underline the quality of the active users of the community. It's way beyond my expectation. Imagine, after being the Anki community for years, not that active in Discord to be honest, and in Reddit and so on, you know that the quality is very low. Because most of that are people who don't care about space repetition. Don't even like Anki. They use it as a cramming tool to get good grades, and that's about it. So the quality of the questions are very low because is read the fucking manual. So questions that can be solved if you check the documentation, they just don't want to read it. Or if you just search in Google, you will find it that this has been asked hundreds of times already. That you get this every single week, someone repeating the same questions. So taking this out, so the change that could be more meaningful in the official forums or in the Discord back then, so 2020 or older, have this date in mind, was a big jump. That's why when I saw that, oh wow. And I learned a lot of not so easy, more tactile knowledge of SuperMemo really early on because of the community. These soft skills that, oh, how you tackle this when you have contradicting information, or how you link items, but not physically link, but make the connection that, hey, this relates to something mathematics, but I can do some analogy and make this connection, stuff like this. It was superb. And I had this early on. Also, what I did is that, hey, I joined a few months after the community was created. I think just 3 months, not even 3 months. So I just read everything, all of the exchange that predated my entry in the community. So I have read everything. In the SuperMemo community, the non-official, the SuperMemo wiki, I have read everything. Perhaps some stuff is just diagonal because something not of my interest or whatever, because I have keeping up of the interaction, and since I don't spend much time without checking that out, I don't need to mark this as read or scroll a lot. Not only that, I went to the prior Discord community that it was closed or inactive because of some drama and whatever. I read everything that was left because some messages were deleted or whatever. So I actually imported this in SuperMemo. I split every 500 messages per channel, and I have read this incrementally. So I have I have seen all of the interactions in the community of both Discords. So I have a very big exposure. It's not the same that, oh no, I engage here and there in the community, I hang out once a month. No. I have more or less omniscience that I have seen all of the exchange, literally. That's why I can consider now that, hey, in Anki I never do that because the quality is so low that it's not worth my time. So I think that's the best summary. Not only that, they are very typo versed. Okay, now if I'm precise, I will say that's not accurate. So because I was still a noob and I saw a very high degree and a skill gap or expertise gap is, oh, they know a lot more than I've reversed. Later realized, I cannot tell you, 6 months, let's put it at 6 months for now. Then realized, wait, that's not what I thought. People, when I go into the obscure stuff and arcane stuff in SuperMemo, people don't know that anymore. So it's not necessarily incremental thing, the paradigm, the method, but the tool set. And people who use it that I thought, oh, they are very versed, they have used it for years. And then you say, hey, how do you use the template flags? Huh? It's the first time I see that. I didn't even knew this exists in SuperMemo, stuff like this. So that was wide opening because I was genuinely waiting for an answer, but they couldn't because it's I don't even know, it's too obscure, or I forgot. Perhaps I did this, I never used it and I forgot, or I didn't know the existence of that. Imagine. That's why on that time onwards, yes, I have learned here and there some details from someone else in the community, but it will be very sporadic, and most of what I did has been self-taught by sheer experimentation and exposure, literally. So what I want to say is that they were versed comparing to my noob self, but today I won't phrase it like that. They are versed in the software. And not only in the software, but in the memory.
Versed in not the software, but in the memory and how to learn and learning.
Yeah, how to learn, yeah. Meta learning, yeah. This kind of thing, exactly. So that they also know how to do analogies, mnemonics, and all of this. How to tackle conflicting information and all of this. The transcends it all.
How to learn and this kind of thing. On sharing.
That if you compare with the Anki community, it's very likely most of the big mass don't. Because they also don't care, basically. It's a different demographic.
The knowledge and this smaller community engagement is that they are building their own tools.
Yep. They are more versed, more engaged, means more motivation, and also because they have, let's say, more general knowledge, even if they're not programmers, they will have a tendency to do some scripts, even if it's very easy. This predates AI, by the way, language models. And they did some scripts, auto-hotkeys scripts, or an app that creates, I don't know, the plan or some of the things in SuperMemo. Now you see full-fledged apps because of AI. And I have one recent example from this week. That's an example because since I'm always there in the community, that's also a proof that I am always there. Basically, this is in Incrementum with a UI interface, a web app. Basically, I still have to try it myself, but basically this comes from a passion project of one SuperMemo user that created the app for himself and now created this because usually it's just very hardcore, in the sense that you need to know everything because it's command line, text based, and so on. This is more friendly for the main audience. So you have a UI. I have this pending. I will do it soon to try it for real, do my review, and so on. But the point is this, that is one with the help of AI. That now you can do a full-fledged web app and so on. That before it was not that easy. So you either needed a background at some degree in programming and coding, even if transformative, that is a different language, architecture, and so on, or you need to do it from scratch on your own. To learn how to do it. But that's again a different mindset. An Anki user is, I need to download an add-on. Oh wow, that's a little breaker already. So imagine writing the add-on, if you know what I mean. Okay, let's continue.
For SuperMemo, which is not that easy as in Anki because it's open source, and you can get add-ons done very easily. And in SuperMemo, I think I have briefly tried SuperMemo system. It's very hacky. You load the add-on or plugin, then the application is like everything is in memory or something like that.
In RAM memory, yeah. Basically, it's compiled code. It's not meant to have add-ons like in Anki. So the system has to do some hacky things, reverse engineering other things to intercept. So it is like an incredible piece of software. Even if it looks terrible, it's very hacky. It has a lot of issues and bugs, unstable or whatever. For what it is, working with compiled code, it's genius code. Yeah.
It's not
sad that the developer moved on. No longer uses SuperMemo. That's why there's no incentive to keep it updating, keeping it up to date, and so on. Not even for money.
Best approach, but since it's proprietary, it's the only way to do it. And the community even run podcasts or
yeah, the Golden Nuggets podcasts. It goes in waves of activity. They are active for a while. They do some episodes, then they spend a year, 2 years, 6 months. They do another wave. But they are usually it's very high quality. Not the production value, I mean, are just two people talking, recording the screen or recording the microphone and sharing this. That's it. It's what they say, what they share. That's the value. Strategy pattern and James B. Both SuperMemo users back in the day, engaged users in the SuperMemo community back in the day, not anymore.
Some of the most active users have blogs. And good, very high quality blogs. And even podcasts. And even into Discord they run community
events.
I don't know how to call it. Community driven debates in one or twice
Imagine, even if it's once a month or twice a month, that's pretty good already. You don't need that much several times a week or whatever. That will be excessive to keep up. But they were the quality. And then we had external people like Andy Matuskak. I was there, but I was brain dead. It's like I don't even remember much of what was exchanged until I saw the recording, because I had COVID, and the symptomatology of the COVID was at its peak. I was trying my efforts just to breathe, and I had one of the worst headaches in my life. So I wanted to be there, but it was not possible to interact with Matushka, that was a loss. But what I wanted to say is that, hey, we had high caliber people, guests in the niche. Not because they are better, it's just they are more famous. Now it's not, I'm not going to discuss this, that people who are more famous are better, are more knowledgeable. Usually I don't agree with that at all. I'll usually the opposite. If you go into the millions, people who have millions views on Anki about in YouTube about Anki whatever are just for crammers and the wrong paradigm. So it's I will be even tell you it's an inverse relationship. When you transcend the tens of thousands, you go to the 6 digits or even 7. It's just pure bullshit. But that's not the topic to discuss here.
A month, and it's pretty interesting. That's how it's called a golden nugget. Absolutely brilliant, and this adds so much value to the SuperMemo.
Yep. That means that people who join, so to emphasize my point in perspective, so people who joined, let me see if I still have the graph. Oh, nice. So the people who joined, let me use a different color then. Who joined here, it's a pity because they didn't get much value unless they read something I was quite saying, hey, if you want, just search for this or search for comments of this person, this user, and see the exchange back in the day because it's very fruitful. It's there, hasn't been deleted, but it's not happening anymore. That's why I was suggesting something on the past. And there was still not, my courses were not done yet. So then was this window that will be the opposite of what I had. That there's not much engagement, there's not much exchange, and there's not much help anyways, even if it's active, people responding to you, or passive, like I do that, watch this video, because it's already solved. I think it will be harder for those people to stick with SuperMemo, because this plus is literally not there. Even now, even if you have the plus of my channel, my course, and even my activity still, SuperMemo is kind of dying out in 2026. Will be the year of make it or break it. Because now you have people are moving on to other software. So even if people want, but to simplify, some people wanted to use incremental reading and they chose SuperMemo unwillingly, so with deal breakers, just because they had no other option. But okay, let me accept it with the deal breakers, because then that means I won't do incremental at all. Now, every time some other, this is losing its weight. Because now, hey, I have like a decaf version of incremental reading, but it's better than nothing. So I will go to different software or platform to have a limited version of incremental reading before I do SuperMemo, because it's a deal breaker. That's why SuperMemo is losing track. And then people who didn't care about incremental reading and only wanted the algorithm, this died out, most of the people, because hey, now we have FSRS. It's still, there's a difference in the long term, but in the first year or 2 years, you don't experience the same degree of difference, and especially because you don't do incremental reading, which is, it's a massive limitation. So with those people who will have bought SuperMemo just because of its algorithm, will not do it anyways. That's why it's losing track. And because every year, the new people are younger and younger, meaning that they have less experience with old software. For instance, if we go back to the year 2000, when incremental reading was implemented, let's say the people were, to simplify, just 20 years old, right? Okay. So everything is reason. Then, in the year 2010, then those people who are now 20 started with 10 years, half of their life. Meaning they have experienced Windows XP, yeah, at some degree, if they started at 10 years or so. Okay, so they are used to have multiple windows. Even if it's not the cup of tea, it's something they have seen, it's a paradigm they have experienced. Now, you put at 20 or 26 years, that means that the person who is 20 was not even born in the year 2000, was in 2006. That means that they started using screens, I don't know, 2011 or something. They never experienced Windows XP or whatever. They already experienced iPhones, tablets, and then I don't know which Windows it was, the 7, I might imagine already, or whatever. So these all school to have a lot of toolbars, menus and submenus and whatever. They didn't experience this at all. For them it's so old, now there's so much difference, that for them it's new. It's like in fashion, that sooner or later they repeat, it's like a pattern that they repeat over. Is yeah, I'm so young that I was not alive when this was a thing. It was fashion. But now that I'm old enough, I see that this is repeating. Same thing with the software. That's now, every time, it will be harder for a new person because they are not millennials anymore. They are the generation X. And it's, what is this? It's a dinosaur. It's a piece of a museum. It's like if you ask me, no, just trash your keyboard and get a typer, I think it's called, with paper. It will be a massive deal breaker, right? It's a paradigm that is obsolete. Same thing. That's why, just because of the pass of time, the new people have a very massive difficulty because SuperMemo is stuck on the 90s. The interface and the paradigm is stuck on the 90s. So for me it was easy because I started using SuperMemo when I was in my early 30s. That means I was old enough that I started with Windows 3.11. Yes, it was obsolete back then. And then it was the time of Windows 95, 98, and so on. The one I remember the most, that I had better memory because I was older, was 98. Windows 98. That I was like 9 years old. So I'm used to this crappy interface, pixelated icons, many windows, and whatever. I think I made my point. But if I was born in the year 2006, what is this piece of software? That's why it's kind of dying out. So the thing is that usually what I thought at the beginning, I also notice here it's cracking, the chat is cracking. So you know that I'm using the same glasses, headphones, microphone, computer, the desktop, everything is the same. What is not the same is that first I was in a chair, then on the floor, and now standing. And with the three, for recording videos, I prefer standing. As well as many meetings in my job or tutoring, all of the tutoring I do is standing as well. So now it's rare, because even if I look at old videos, I can know, I guess, because how I move and whatever, that I'm sitting on the floor, because I use chroma key, right? But here I'm using a chair. It feels foreign, that I don't have much memories, because if I backtrack the about 2,000 videos I did for my channel, how many have chairs? 20? Like 1% of the videos. So 99% of the videos don't have that. That's why it feels foreign, alien.
1 month ago is that okay?
I identify.
I will do this myself, absolutely alone, as how I learned Anki back in the day.
Yeah, alone, I mean self-taught in that case.
In 2009.
Yes, myself, absolutely alone. Yeah, you get what I mean, but it's a weird English grammar to say that.
Absolutely alone. And this hasn't been the case. I had a quick start with the help of Rush.
Yeah, 2 sessions, only one on record, because the other one, the second session, which was shorter, and we didn't do much because we had some rabbit holes to solve with technical issues. I didn't record my sound of the computer, so you could not hear Rush, so it kind of defeat the purpose. And since I removed that from my channel, eventually, I didn't hold a copy on my own. But yeah, that's just hypothesis, I cannot tell that. It will not have changed much, to be honest. Some parts that we carried on, I already knew. The extract and so on. I mean, I learned from that session, of course. But something I already knew, the basics, the fundamentals, and some I would have learned anyways through the documentation. And some I do disagree. That meaning that it's correct, it's true what you say, but I will not do this for a newbie. I will do this much later. That a newbie doesn't need to know this at this time. It's not useful. Stuff like this. Or some like splitting the article. I will do this hierarchical, not just 500 children at once. Especially not for a beginner, because you make it a lot harder to prioritize. Stuff like this. And the other layer is that if I had no help with Rush, I would have done the same. Because I had the idea to record myself and do the experiment. So I would have done absolutely the same. SuperMemo community user. And not only that, I have been able to ask questions. Not all, I didn't have a reply of everything, but most of what they have been asking, I got an answer. In the first month, then this changed. And yeah, this makes a huge difference, because if I should be doing this by myself, I will be not only going slower, but only as well all the motivation will be different. It makes a huge difference now. Yeah, this makes a difference because it's, oh yeah, I have difficulty, but yeah, this happened later, that, oh, now I solve it half a year later. But it's, hey, if I solve it tomorrow, not on the spot because I wasn't doing this live. Imagine that was my original idea, to stream this, do it live, and with a little audience, just 2 or 3 people, I don't need more than that. Then they could answer the questions on the spot, or whatever. Now this is not needed anymore, because you have the course, so it's unnecessary to do that. I mean, you can do it, feel free to do it, but there's no need to do it now. And yet this takes a toll, but only in the beginning, because it's this frustration. It's like those games that are very common in streamers that are purposely difficult because the purpose is to frustrate the user, like getting up or one of those that requires precision, and when you fail you kind of start over and you rage, stuff like that. They are built for this. SuperMemo is not built like this. It's just a side effect of being built for pro users, that you feel this and, oh, at least I have this reward that I have 4 questions, but at least I answered 3. Okay, so I still have something to do, but I see progress. Unconsciously, my brain is checking 3 boxes. Means progress. Imagine that I have 4. I don't solve any. Perhaps I narrow down the scope of some of them, but still I don't get the answer. And then I add more. Now I have 7. I have 12. I have no. this is like adding more fuel to the fire, and I cannot check mentally any bugs. So this requires more will or more focus on the long term. So depends on your personality. This toll could be enough that I give up. Nice.
What I'll be doing is I will switch in the sense that I am using SuperMemo as my main application. This doesn't mean I will give up Anki.
Which I didn't. What happened? So I had the honeymoon period of SuperMemo, and some days I didn't use Anki based on time, because I spent all my hours with SuperMemo that, yeah, it's already midnight, but what there is to be, I had to be done. Then, at some degree, something that I would have done in Anki is, no, wait, let me do it in SuperMemo. Therefore, I haven't had the need to use Anki because I substitute this for a different platform. So basically, Anki most of the time was for something I already had in Anki. But I have a video that I deleted more than 6 million. It will be in the corner. 6 million repetitions worth of flashcards, not flashcards. So flashcards I don't even know because I have been deleting them incrementally. I know they're in the more than 200,000. But I cannot put a number. Then, I did a ton of stuff, basically from cramming in the formal education. Then what I have left is very mature. Or I rely on add-ons because it's Japanese and it's a lot better to display that in SuperMemo. So out of convenience and sheer convenience, I leave it in Anki. My decision. I could do it in SuperMemo. Absolutely yes. But for me, Japanese back then was already the lowest priority. So what I was doing, language learning was more on the side. And for the language I was learning, Japanese was the lowest. That's why I didn't make it to SuperMemo because of the priority. Because I stopped learning Japanese altogether. So I only kept what I have learned. But I didn't continue, if this makes sense. That's why, yeah, how many flashcards I have do today? 4, 5, 10, 1, none. That's why, yeah, it doesn't happen much if I wait a few days and then I do 20 or 30 repetitions and it's language, so it's like 5 minutes. Not a big deal. That's why gradually I used Anki less and less because I had fewer and fewer repetitions to do, basically, as a side effect. So I could say, hey, I always finish my standing queue, the equivalent in Anki, yep. But that was getting so low that, yeah, I don't need even to use it every single day now. And even if I added more stuff, it's the lowest priority, meaning that before I move to do this, I will need to finish the outstanding of my incremental reading items. That this didn't happen because I was employed full-time, I did an MBA, and then running the channel, or I had multiple jobs, so not studying the MBA, but multiple jobs and the channel, and especially when the course. So in the last almost 20 months, I have invested a lot of time because of the course, meaning that Anki was like I had to take vacation to use Anki, let's say, because it was kind of low priority. So even though I'm consistent, I'm very minimal in the quantity, if this makes sense. Because, hey, you have only done, I don't even know, I don't have it in this computer, but it's very low, like in the sense that just a few thousand, for me, just a few thousand, that's very low, according to my other standards, because I was doing more than 1,000 a day. So what I do in a year before was just a week. I have done the same amount of repetitions. And that's the key. Same amount of repetitions, not the same amount of learning. By no means can compare. Even if I did 6 million repetitions, I learned a lot less than in SuperMemo with 100 and something. So even if I did 60 times more, I didn't learn the same content. The quantity of content, way less. The quality and the applicability, way less. They cannot compare. And now, I'm in a position that, yes, I use Anki, but I don't identify as an Anki user because I do very little. It's like when someone asks, hey, do you watch movies? Yes, I do. But I say, when I am being asked this, I say no. Because when you say ask this, it implies that it's a frequent, it's like a hobby, that you like to go to the movies or being watch this in Netflix or whatever. It's yes, I do watch movies. It's true. But just a few a year. That makes it true. But it's not a hobby. Like someone, when you ask if you drink alcohol, it's not if you have the habit to drink alcohol. It's yes, I can say yes, I drink alcohol, but once or twice a year, and just enough to swallow. No, not the entire thing ever, because I know it's toxic. Or I could have been 2 years without drinking alcohol. But if you ask me, hey, you drink alcohol? No, because I don't have the habit. Yes, I drink it because it's true in the very explicit sense of the question. Same with Anki. If you now ask me if I use Anki, yes, because I use it. It's actually true. It's real. But I don't identify as an Anki user as before because I don't have the habit to use it daily. Not because I don't want to, it's because there's nothing to do. They're not due anymore because I either delete them or they are very mature. That even if I have tens of thousands of flashcards, nothing becomes, all of the intervals are in multiple years. So what I will get is what generally becomes outstanding, every time will be less, fewer and fewer, and what I lapse, that it resets back to zero interval. So it's likely that we'll see next week, next month, and shorter intervals. But now I'm in the point that if you plot a week, 5 days, there's nothing outstanding, nothing due, none, and only in 2 days. Meaning I can wait to Sunday and do the repetitions, done. Not because I'm lazy, it's because there's nothing else, because I'm not adding content in Anki. Why? Because I stop the language learning there. And everything that I do is in SuperMemo. Meaning that if now, I hope that eventually, when I'm more financially stable, and I only work a full-time job, and run this channel that I consider a hobby, and part of my job, for my full-time job, is the tutoring and all this. This is already part of the job. Then I will have more free time, and I will be able to spend on lower priority hobbies. And it could be the case that I could resume language learning. And that will mean that I will resume a heavy load in Anki, basically. So it's not because it's a philosophy I don't want to use Anki. It's because of what I learn. I don't need Anki for that. So if you want to see me using Anki, feature Anki, and so on, it's likely I work less, fewer hours. Still not today. Using Anki, I will keep using it because what I do with one particular deck is that I generate the content, and it's like Anki that you can update the deck. So I do this actually myself with another source. Yeah, I know because I know what I did, but it's very hard here to get the message how I communicate it. So basically, let's say I have this, right? The JAMO, the transliteration, the other way around, the sound, whatever. So I can export those in Anki as plain text, with some standard. Then with Python or some other programming language, I modify or add content, I update this back, so without using add-ons necessarily. So now I have, I don't know, the same information. Vale, termino este fragmento. Pero el vídeo no me va a dar tiempo. I have the same information but expressed in a different standard, or I add more information, or I add something like the stroke count, or some metadata, whatever, as extra fields, stuff like this. It was pretty convenient. And especially because the card type, or node, should I say node type, you can make conditionals. So let's say that one is irregular in the phonetic, how it's pronounced. This will have a non-empty field, so this will create a flashcard for me. This is just pure convenience. I don't want to extend here in this video, but just to get the point that I do it for kanji, or should I say unihan, that is the same for then Japanese, or how it's the same character in Chinese, how they differ in the stroke order, how it's pronounced in Mandarin Chinese, the keyword I use for the mnemonics, papapam. All of this is narrated on the behind the curtains. I only care where I need to put the information, and this creates everything. And like if it was SuperMemo, I need to explicitly create this every single time, manually re-edit what is in the front and the back, apply the template. Way too much work. Since it's something artificial, that is a very robust mnemonic system for something that is concrete and finite, that it's the best, for me, is the best use case of Anki. That you all rely on the node card relationship, unlike SuperMemo. What happens? That now I don't do this anymore, because either I have finished or it's in pause, because I don't want to continue unless everything that is high priority is already covered, which I don't. Nice. Then, today I recorded for quite a while, and I will leave it here. We're still finishing, just a few minutes left of the first month milestone. See you incrementally. Okay, today it's Sunday 24th of June. Today it's incremental readings. Here once again the next iteration for the reaction of the milestones. Today it's Saturday, January 24th. Outside of Anki. So I regenerate the content on the decks, and that's something I cannot do in SuperMemo. Even though I know it's absolutely a bad idea, because I'm seeing cards for the first time in SRS. So it's first you understand, then you memorize. Oh, okay, now I get what you mean. That I generate programmatically the cards. A good bit that I see one of the letters, what the sound represent, for the first time in the flashcard form. Which, this is rather common in Anki because of the user base, what they do with shared decks, but that's not how special edition is meant to be used. And I'm seeing this for the first time in SRS, so I would memorize at the same time that I'm planning, which is not a good idea. But since I am already in the long run, I made more than 1 million reviews. I just have left just a tiny bit, I don't know the percentage, but I think I have done more than 80% of the database. So I will just end what's left, and I will be keeping Anki with that. Yeah, so that's not the sunk cost fallacy. Is that it will be nice to have everything in one place, especially those that are not that well translated. It's not just a front and back and that's it. I mean, for what I have left, I will just continue and have everything on Anki. So even if that was true, I don't know how long it took, not much, and for a few years I didn't add anything else. That's also true because I have stopped using actively learning Japanese, for instance. That's why I only stayed of what I had, maintenance mode. And the maintenance mode is goes lower and lower with time.
I don't want to mess around with SuperMemo. I want to keep it clean.
Exactly. I didn't want to, which I did in a backup. I did converted repetitions, but hey, does this have an effect in the algorithm and so on? But based on this, that everything is very mature. So why risking all of this? Converting the repetitions, hundreds of thousands of repetitions, if everything is in the 8-year interval, 7, 10, 11, not worth it.
Though I will try to import about 80,000 cards. That's everything I could import. So
I could import in the sense that it will be meaningful to import to have in SuperMemo, is what I mean.
we'll start for the more little things. I'm very mature, so I don't care, for instance, Takana. I don't care if I reboot this from scratch because I have very few cards.
Yeah, I like what 200, and the repetitions will be very very quick. That means that overall, with the entire how you call this, not a thread, branch, I will spend what, 5 minutes in the next year. It's not a big deal.
In this case, items. So in the next 30
Yeah, exactly.
30 years, what can I waste? 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour? I don't care. But if I want to import 50,000...
Not because of the size alone that is tiny. It's because of the difficulty is extremely low. It's like if now I do the English alphabet. It will be pretty damn easy, right?
1,000 items, then I do care to get the Sheldon data. And that's everything I want to cover. I don't want to make this video any longer.
Well,
So the key
Now, myself, I did it much longer now.
point is that I am absolutely hooked. I think I will be using SuperMemo for life.
Perhaps not SuperMemo for life, but should I specify incremental reading for life? Perhaps it will be another software that takes over. But absolutely, I will never stop doing incremental reading. No chance.
I am still in the learning curve.
Yep.
There are some things that I have
Not anymore.
still to learn and to do for the first time. But
Good appreciation. Some things that I have to learn and to do for the first time. Because what I was doing is preemptively learn about this feature before I need it or before I actually use it. And sometimes I use it and it's not enough with common sense to know, to understand what it's doing, what I'm doing. Then let me check the documentation and learn, right? Like when you get a new phone, you just mess around. Oh, it's a new Android. It's totally different. You don't check the manual, what is new, other things like, right? So that goes a good appreciation because a lot of staff is, no, because I can hurt my collection big time. Let me wait until I don't get to the documentation to that place. I'm not going to trigger that feature. Especially if there's no undo.
learn and to do for the first time.
And sometimes I needed like half a year. One of the least common features, I triggered for the first one after half a year of intense usage of SuperMemo. because there are so many obscure and arcane features. Way too many.
It needs time, so it has been really pleasant to do so, even though at some points at the beginning I lost the patience.
Yeah.
But actually it's not that a big deal. So I guess just one random person, the average citizen can learn SuperMemo with at least community.
Yeah. So basically, you know, there are different personalities, not everyone is the same. My personality is very extremely friendly for incremental reading. The long-term orientation, the patience, the delayed gratification, the, how do you call it? Introspection, capacity to self-reflect, all of these, right? So not everyone will experience the same difficulty with SuperMemo because of the preference and personality traits, not intelligence. I'm not going there. So, but at least the community-driven approach, on with the course, is a lot easier. I think I have increased the access to SuperMemo. It requires a huge effort, of course, but it's a different league now. Before it was Titanic. Now it's a great deal of effort. The average citizen can learn how to use SuperMemo.
Driven approach. So it's not just using the official wikis.
That is the idea. If you follow the pleasurable guide to SuperMemo, if you only want fluency, you don't want mastery and the details, you don't actually require the wiki, any of the wikis, because there are many, there are multiple, to make things worse. There's literally no need for that. Because I went through the wikis myself and I have read every single page. And with this, I did my course. Not just official wikis, but the Supermopedia, the one that people can ask and write. If I ever finish the mastery, you will realize why it's so long, because I cover almost everything.
Which are kind of intimidating at first. I think most of the users can cope with this learning curve.
Yeah, that's the golden nugget. Basically, I make it easier so you can cope, but there's still a learning curve. You have to put time on that. I see that the recommended is 2 months, Milestone, but I'm not sure if it's that the next one. Oh wait, I still have a few seconds.
So I think in the long run we can make this SRS mainstream.
SRS, yeah, set incremental reading.
That will be all. Feel free to comment what's on your mind or reach me in Discord.
See ya. What's the incrementally? And yeah, only one person commented. Oh, well, it's way too school grid, and yeah, I just do the very specific answer, so no need to cover that. Nice. Then let me go to the oh, nice. Do you see what happened? That's why in my mind was, hey, the next, I don't remember what it is, but I don't remember it was the same background. Here you go. There's one video missing in this playlist. Wow. Hi. The 2 months. Okay, let me add the video. Okay. Cool. Okay, here you go. Now it's there. Awesome. So I was missing a video. Oh my god.